part of my doctoral research and my own interest as well is collective practice. Collective practice can take many ways, many political direction. The one that I am most interested is commoning practices, like commons, let's say. Then, when thinking of collective artistic practice, I think that the number one example is video or movies. But I think that radio practice is maybe more interesting in terms of distribution. Publishing practices and radio is collective effort for distribution of knowledge.
Okay.
That is the interesting part.
Yeah. So this is one main theme in your practice generally, is the commons.
Yes.
Do you have other topics around it or other themes?
Let's say, like for the time being now, is that if there is something that I am interested is how do people still want to be together? This is something that is like, because we live in such a time of division, isolation, and individualism, self-entrepreneur, and those things. How is it that people still want to be together and do something together? Because this is not something that is for granted. And I think that at the time we speak, just artists organizing themselves is already very political. And I think that is very interesting to think how that can happen.
It's like most of your work, artistic work, taking kind of inspiration from some scientific discovery or some universal phenomenon?
Yeah, the light art work are quite much related on it. But at the same time, I'm interested in this world of advertising, light by lighting, like lighting letters, like neon lights and this kind of thing. And this Las Vegas style of, blinking lights and making that kind of things. I'm also interested in that. And at the same time, in the neon lights, they are like plasma, which has the scientific connection, as you were asking. And the plasma is it's like over 95% of the estimated amount of matter in the universe. It's like in form of plasma. All these nebulas and stars and aurora borealis, they are like plasma. So it's an important thing for us, the plasma. Originals. What has been used in these neon pieces.
Okay, so you need to make these kinds of files.
Yeah, this is like one to one. The scale is 1 to 1. So I sent these papers to the neon glass bender, and he puts this on the table like this, and then he
bends the glass.
Yeah, he bends the glass.
Oh, interesting.
On the foam, yeah. And that's why they're sort of burned, because glass needs to be hot.
For a long time, I've been dealing with the topic of memory. I guess like also the passage of time, transience, trauma, through different angles maybe. So I've been interested in memory from the psychological point of view, but also from, let's say, ecological or archaeological point of views as well. So somehow I think it's very flexible and universal topic that can cover quite many kind of point of views under it. So yeah, I would say that memory is somehow the main theme that I circle around or deal with.
Do you remember well? Like, do you have the memory?
No. I think I have a mediocre memory, so not totally bad. But for example, one of the main things that when I started to really do my practice was the interest towards the old photographs from my family. And when I was looking at myself as a younger person in the photographs, I couldn't remember the events. So I could only see myself in the photographs, but like it was a somehow blank space for me or a memory. And that got me interested in the idea that what is the role of photography in building the memories. And sometimes we actually do remember more the memories through the photographs than like that we have the actual memory. And of course, everyone knows that like every time when we remember, we rewrite the old memory. So it's always like this kind of like, do we even actually have the original memory of the moment anymore existing, or is it rewritten so many times? But now I'm getting to the side paths. But I feel like, that somehow this role of photography was very interesting. And since I don't remember that well my own childhood, it was interesting to face these family photos and be like, why I don't recall any of these, or I had to ask my mom. And then maybe in some places I remembered that maybe my mom answered in a very different way, that, oh yeah, this was this one. And that was
I remember it was also left also.
Yeah, so also that was interesting, that how it's so subjective.
I am generally very interested in the world, of how it is constructed, of how it works. Somehow I tend to focus on very large structures of how things work, how things are built. For example, these drawings, I got really interested in surfaces. When you start to think that whatever you have contact with in reality, it's some sort of a surface. Either you see it or touch it, doesn't matter, but it is a surface, you know. Well, that was also the time when the AI emerged. So I wanted to test things out with that, like what's up with that. So I started generating non-existing things. I have this thing with the what is existing, like what is real, these kinds of.
Oh, that's a tough question.
It's a bit broad, I know, but yeah. So yeah, I started generating things and then drawing them, because I have also this aspect of the virtual and the physical, like kind of jumping from one to the other, like creating these bridges between the things. So that was also kind of one approach. And I remember how nice it is to draw with a pencil on paper. It's so soothing, it's so relaxing, it's amazing. So yeah, that's where those drawings start.
So you're definitely back to the basics.
I need not be more basics than that.
I mean, it's just pen and paper. I mean, it's really the basics. It's interesting because you're merging you're using the AI and still like going back to the traditional media.
Yeah, and then combining these different things I find very interesting, and combining generally very different ideas and approaches is something I'm into. Eventually I started drawing actual physical surfaces, which I found in some microscopic imagery, for example. And it's funny how sometimes you cannot tell the difference, which is generated, which is the real one. So you have been a bit in between art and design the whole time.
Yes, I have. I already back in school, I guess I was. I had to do.
How does it feel to be like this in the middle?
Well, I think it's quite free space to be, because you can explore and you don't have to think about really, like when you're doing yourself. Of course, if I would be doing designing for some company, then I would have to think about functionality more. But when I'm doing it myself, then I can do it with my own terms. So yeah, I think it's quite like nice place to play. You can basically do whatever and do like, well, I like to do this. I have this collection of like these clocks, and I think that has been, I should really continue it now, because it has been like a really, really nice objects to make. And I have been like combining different techniques there. I've been throwing and hand building, and so it's kind of like you can mix so many different things, materials and techniques, and then it's still like a usable thing. But I have been moving a bit towards art now, so let's see what happens in the future. But art is tempting me more and more, and
I mean, art gives a lot more freedom there.
yeah, and maybe it can be a bit tougher place, but then again, I think that well, maybe it's just the thing that I want to go forwards. Of course, I want to do like my old stuff too and develop those, but somehow I want to feel that I'm going somewhere with my own working.
Unapproachable. And I think sometimes artists, we over-intellectualize things. I think there's a place for everything. And myself coming from a more theoretical background, I tend to kind of be up in my head. So it's really nice to have somebody that is your mirror to kind of how to find the essence of what I'm trying to say. And like, okay, if she understands it, then probably somebody else also.
Yes, and then somebody to just ground you and like, okay, this is not what other people generally think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that you're making that effort to because I'm not doing that effort. For example, my parents are also not artists, engineer, pharmacist. But I just decided that, okay, you don't understand what I'm doing. It's okay. Never mind. I'll just do it.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fun also. I think just we're different and we want to kind of, it depends on what you want to emphasize on.
Yeah. So do you, when you have an exhibition, do you emphasize on the story behind your paintings?
Yeah, I think so. I think I always have a subject that I am studying, and I think we're just integrally bound to what we study. Like, I think that is a relationship already, and that is just me and that subject that has that relationship. So I try to kind of open up that to the audience, and sometimes it's just a few sentences, and in some contexts it might be okay to have a longer version, and usually there's a longer version that is printed than the shorter one. But I love also that to kind of how to transmute and find the essence, so it's approachable. And then when I'm creating, like, I don't always like, oh, now I'm creating this and this and this symbolizes this and that. It's more about like me reading, me sketching, me going back to what I'm reading, sketching again, starting to create. Maybe it doesn't resonate, so I go back to reading, and then at some point I try to let go that when I'm creating, when I'm in my flow, it's just intuition and not like being in my head, not intellectualizing that. So I intellectualize in the beginning and in the end, but try not to do it in the middle.
That is really good that you say, because I was exactly going to ask you about your process. So you just answered it before me asking anyway. Yeah.
I might go like a year without sitting at the piano and playing something, or without writing a song, or I might just go like 3 months in which I do it every day, you know. It's
so it's not only the guitar, it's composing, it's like playing the piano, it's what else?
Yeah, I sing too. Not very well, but I do. But I think like my passion lies more in writing songs than performing them. Yeah, that's why I'm not very interested. Like, I'm not focused in mastering an instrument and being great at it. And that's something I learned with the years. I just like the activity of writing a song. For me, that's just really cool. I don't know, it's like, I like the challenge. And it's so frustrating too. I think it's a bit like, I don't know, it's like I have this relationship with art in general, that it's something I feel like I have to do. But it's also so frustrating sometimes, you know? You're like, oh my gosh, it's turning like shit, or I'm not figuring out how to do this, but somehow you kind of feel like you have to keep doing it. It's weird. I hear many artists saying like, oh, for me doing art, it's like how I feel happy, and it's just so cool to make art. I mean, I don't feel happy necessarily making art. I feel like it's painful. And they're like, oh, you're a masochist. I think I am a little bit, but it's more of a need, really, for me, than a state of happiness. Yeah. it helps me to cope with the world, and I don't know.
It's a therapy for you.
Maybe, yeah. And maybe that's why I also don't feel like I can do it all the time. I just have these periods in which I feel like I'm so blocked and I can't do anything. And then, I don't know, I have very high standards. And that I think that's a very bad thing when you're an artist. Because then you're always trying to fill in the gap between your expectations and where your skill level is. And frustration is there, you know, in between.
Time and duration, for sure.
You said you were interested in the materiality also?
Yes, I am. And this is something that comes from my photography background, even though my works are nowadays often three-dimensional and spatial. There is this like, I keep coming back to this like essence of photograph, which I think is this trace of durational process, material process. And that is something that I think that also defines my three-dimensional work. For example, now I've been making these concrete castings out of molds, which repeats the specific structure of the specific surface, leaving a trace of the presence of the surface. Traces also interest me when I'm making sculptures. I've been now interested in rocks and especially the bedrock in Finland, which is one of the oldest one in the world. And that it has been still for like a really long time. So there hasn't been like volcanic action happening for a long time. So that's why. And then what is also like special for our like bedrock is that we have a lot of traces of ice age that can be perceived. And those traces are the ones that I've been taking molds of, like these traces that left by the glacier or massive like amount of ice that has been like melting and kind of, anyway.
Even after all these years, like this kind of, like this red thread or kind of, like the core themes of my practice are this attempt to explore like how we read images, or sort of this kind of questions of perceptions, and also like the medium itself, like the painting is really kind of big questions that just kind of keeps interesting me, like what is kind of like really in the essence of painting, and what are the kind of how to work with it in a way that is something that you can only do with painting.
Yeah, painting is probably the most traditional way to be an artist. Like everybody who's not an artist, you tell them I'm an artist, and they're like, "What do you paint?"
Yeah. It's kind of so you're a painter or what? Or yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, painting is difficult because, especially nowadays, it's so easy to produce an image in many other ways. So it's tricky.
Yeah, and of course there's also this kind of burden. you could say maybe like burden of tradition, but I think it's also really interesting of just like how you find your own relation to that tradition. I'm really kind of like I also like quite consciously use art history as a reference point in my work, but still it's really important to do that from like today, or sort of like so that it's like relevant from today's perspective. It's true. It's really it's kind of a complex.
Yeah, the painting, like it seems easy to be a painter because there's so many
it's like an ocean of how to teach you how to paint. But then it's so difficult because then you have to choose what you need, what you want to paint, and why you want to paint that. And your paintings are very interesting balance between the abstract and the concrete. Some of them more abstract, some of them a little bit more. You can see a figure there. It's curious how you developed your visual language to the way it is today.
I already in that time, like I knew that I wanted to work spatial or somehow like with the size. But then actually when we had the first printmaking lessons and you had the first copper plate and you could start printing it, I realized that you have the plate and you're not stuck with the one image that it's there. You can actually like, it's in a way I felt like it was a key and you could take all the possible colors out of that same key. I don't know, it was just like very magical for me. Like, you can get all these million versions of this little thing and it can start to create something very big from small pieces. And I think that, well, in my work now, you can see always are these like pieces start to build something big. So that's why I also said like, I see the connection, how I work with ceramic also coming from printmaking. Somehow I always feel like I want to have this sense of calmness and concentration in my work. Maybe because I'm not very calm person myself. I've been wondering, like I had a problem at one point, like why my works are so minimalistic and so calm, because I feel like I'm a bit all over the place often. And then I thought that maybe that's because that's what I really need.
You're calming yourself through that.
Yeah, exactly. And also what I really enjoy is like either it's visiting like a beautiful space, a church, old, like just if it's a great architecture or great artworks that somehow make you stop and make you be still. So those are also the ones that speak to me a lot. So
I think to me it's always like the balance between the digital and handmade. So like when does it go over the border of being like too industrial or produced or something? That's something that I balance with. But like there's so much. I do so many decisions with my like hands, and of course it's me who like programs everything that I'm cutting. But it's like I've always enjoyed like combining different ways of creating the image with maybe older printing methods like screen printing. Of course, screen printing is not old if you think of the history of printmaking, but anyway, like still like these more
traditional.
Of
contemporary art.
Yeah,
it's kind of classical medium already.
Yeah. So like combining and finding new ways to utilize the tools you have, and so there's like with the general like gram of paper that I use, there's 30 elements per centimeter. So then in these bigger works that are several meter, it can be like, I think the biggest one has been 20,000 elements that I made, and I need to cut them one by one. So it's a lot of this like repetition and combining pieces. So in a way, it does remind me of like making a collage work. But and also the like changes that happen in the work, they're quite minimal in a way. So there's like quite subtle transformations quite often. Sometimes they're more visible, but sometimes you kind of really need to look for them and just playing around with them.
Yeah, and your works are very precise.
Yeah. Yeah, people when they come to my studio, they're like shocked how it looks, because it's like a chaotic mess. And
I guess it needs to balance.
Yeah, I guess that's like how it looks inside my head, how my studio looks, and then trying to kind of strip it down to bare minimum in the works and having them like quite controlled.
I was kind of like, as artists often do, you feel like after this kind of big exhibition or other kind of achievement, you are kind of left empty easily. And it was such a great to hear, for example, from you that it left you, that it left some impression, because in many exhibitions I've had, and I've heard from many other artists, that you don't really get any feedback from your work. Even
I've also heard that,
yeah,
and I've noticed it myself too.
yeah. So you are kind of left really alone after the exhibition, and you just feel like, was it like complete failure? And you are just like questioning your work and yourself, and it's been now a bit of a process for me to figure out what to do, to be short.
Yeah, I wonder how this could be improved a bit. The kind of the feedback thing. I guess it's maybe partly cultural here, that people are a bit more reserved when they express their opinion in some situation. Maybe that's why they don't want to say something that might offend another person or something. Maybe that's the thing. Even if they liked the event.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know. It might be a little bit cultural, and people are quite not afraid but careful with their words, and maybe this positive feedback, even if the exhibition or some work has been like big thing, like it's been like, wow, this was amazing, then there's quite steep step to go and tell it to the artist. You feel it's like, but maybe I can use this opportunity to say to everyone, hey, contact the artist.
absolutely, yes.
and just send a message. You made a very great work. Even if you don't have to have any connection. It's always great to hear if something left you some kind of impression.
As in my social practice, I have used food cultures as a way to do things together. And when I decided I wanted to set up some sort of base for myself again in Helsinki, I thought, okay, I have the studio, it has a kitchen. The cool thing is that it has a door to the public's
It has its
pathway.
own outside door, yeah.
I don't need to have anyone visit me by going through the common door with my other housemates using. So people can come here autonomously without affecting the rest of the house. And at the time, the neighbor across the pathway, Ritu Kokkola, she used to have a sort of education center for handicrafts, and she made workshops there in the summer. I thought I could do the same. I could do workshops in this space around, for example, fermentation, around other food traditions that, people don't maybe know how to do it. They come and they do it together and they go home a little bit happier, a little more knowledgeable, etc.
And a full stomach.
And maybe a full stomach. And this is, already when I spent time living in other places, I had explored the idea of a kitchen lab, which is not a unique term, it's a very common term. But the idea, of course, that a kitchen and the social space around it can be an experimental space, a place where you experiment with making, maybe a space where you experiment in what you do in a kitchen. And I thought, okay, I could make a kitchen lab out of this. I can make workshops here. We can invite people to come in through this door. There's a toilet. There's no need to interfere with other parts of the house. It's perfect. And to be honest, 2019, when this idea sort of crystallized, when I moved into this place, I thought, oh, great. And of course, as we all know, by the time March 2020 came along, there was no participatory events anywhere. And inviting people to your home was not going to happen so easily.
Yeah, how did you go through the COVID period?
Well, I lived together with other people in this house, and we took care of each other. So if someone got sick, we helped them. If someone had to be quarantined, they were quarantined, etc. So we managed. It was quite useful, quite good. I mentioned earlier that there was even a Helsingin Sanomat article, journalist and photographer come to find out how a big commune survives in the COVID period. And we did.
I will read research paper, but sometimes I just reach out to people and be like, so what's interesting about what you're doing? Like one of my first project called Ground Truths, it's about remote sensing. And it's really a chance encounter of like when I was going to a lecture in Aalto when I was a Vika student. I just encountered these two scientists like taking a smoke break with like a giant, like later on I know as a LiDAR scanner.
Oh yeah.
And then a tree, like and
I've
a
seen
big
the LiDAR
white
scanner.
background.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are you doing? And then it kind of started from there. And then I was like, can I just go to a field trip with you to a forest? Because they were doing a research field trip in the middle of the forest in a field station in Huhtiala, like in the middle of Finland. And so I did. I just followed them. And then I keep asking, of course I asked them, do you have any research paper or like any like key literature or like manual in your field that I can read? And then they very generously like showed it to me. And then I read and I have some questions, so I just interview in a way, a little bit like interview them or having a conversation with them about, do you think that's like, why is what you're doing important, or like, how does that make sense to you? Because sometimes their way of understanding images doesn't immediately make sense to me, because it's very different ways of image making or like interpreting the image. So through that, I then developed a point of view that I re-entered the project with, and then I start again making work, video essay, and keep developing it with at least a standpoint of where I'm standing with this technology or like with this image.